Do you need the Caravan Master achievement? Do you want to be the Duel Master of the Mojave Wasteland? Well, my friend, you have clicked on the right video. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Lpearly show, and today we're going to be going over how to be a Caravan Master. Today I'm going to be showing you all how to exploit the mentally unwell with your Blue Eyes White Eyebot trap card. The first thing you're going to want to do is obtain a Caravan deck. The best way to do this is by getting it from Ringo, either by pacifying him through dialogue options or looting it from his corpse after you don't do that. The next step is going to be to get to Novak. I don't care how you get there. Walk, fly, train, plane, automobile, teleportation. It doesn't matter. We don't need to travel to Mojave to find the best Caravan players because Caravan is a game of skill. We need to find a grandmaster to train us. Just as Diogenes was a master of philosophically not washing your ass and Asmon Gold is a grandmaster at being a covert CIA operative, we must look to no other than the humble Nobark Noonan to become a grandmaster at Caravan. Okay, I am making a bit of how Nobark Noonan is an esoteric master of Caravan, but the actual reason that we're going to be farming him for caps is because he bets a fucking insane amount of caps, and he will play you an infinite amount of times. Most of the other NPCs in the games will either bet a really low amount of caps, or they'll only play you 2 or 3 times. Nobark is also pretty early in the game before you have access to better legitimate cap farming methods. Of course, there's probably some exploit that you can do in Good Springs that'll get you more caps than doing this, but whatever, you already clicked on the video, so. Another thing about Nobark is that he does bet a lot of caps, but he is actually kind of fucking cracked at Caravan. Him and Ambassador Crocker are the only NPCs in the game who play the game like they have brain cells, which is ironic, considering one of them is a politician and one of them is Nobark Noonan. We're going to be running the gauntlet against Nobark because, like I said, he bets a shit ton of caps every single time you play him, up to 800 caps. Some people may consider fleecing Nobark Noonan to be immoral because he's a homeless or mentally unwell person, but Nobark Noonan is not fucking homeless. Nobark Noonan is cosplaying poverty. It sounds like a bit, but no, consider this. Nobark Noonan owns an actual house, albeit a shack, and the doctor of this town lives in a fucking outdoor tent with her 2 boyfriends. Shit, even Manny and Boone live in hotel rooms, and they have fucking jobs. Nobark Noonan has his own house and hundreds of caps to bet on a fucking card game. The guy has a Sunset Sarsaparilla machine in his house. That's the in-universe equivalent to owning a Phantom Menace Pepsi machine. I don't believe the theory that this guy's the chosen one, but there's definitely something fishy going on here. Side note, I used to think Nobark Noonan was the final survivor of Vault 11, and then I realized that the terminals have dates on them, and he would have to be over 200 years old for that to be the case. Although at this point, I don't know if I would put anything past this guy. Enough window dressing. I've showed you where to find your weapon, I've showed you where to use your weapon, and now I will show you how to use your weapon.
Without my rifle, I am nothing! Say it, you fucking idiot!
I think Caravan has earned the reputation of, oh my fucking god, what is going on here, because this is some of the most hostile UI I've ever seen in a video game. It doesn't help that picking your cards feels like playing Russian roulette with how fucking slow this UI is. Caravan seems extremely confusing, and it is, but it gets a little less confusing once you realize it's basically just PvP blackjack. The objective of the game is to get all 3 of your columns between 20 and 26. 19 is too low, and 27 is too high. Once you hit 3 Caravan columns over 20 and under 27, you will win the game. They don't have to be all the same number or even close. A 21 is just as valid for winning as a 26. I will add, a lot of the times you'll only need to get 3 columns in order to break a tiebreaker. Sometimes you can just win with 2 columns. The most confusing thing about Caravan that isn't explained very well at all is the mechanic of counting up or down. Whereas in Blackjack, your number order doesn't really have any bearing on the game. In Caravan, it is everything. In Caravan, you're only able to place a card if you are counting up or down. For example, if you place a 10, you would only be able to place numbers lower than 10, i.e. counting down. If you place down a 1, you would only be able to place numbers above 1, counting up. If you place a number like 5, you can count up or down by placing a number higher or lower than 5. Capiche? Once you lock into counting up or down, you are locked into that, except for fringe situations, which we'll cover later. You can skip counting up or down if you're placing down a card that has the same suit as the one you're trying to place it down on. For example, you can play a red spade onto another red spade, no matter the number. No counting restrictions apply to this, but it does get kind of wonky trying to count up or down after you place a number of a similar suit on there, so I'd really only recommend doing it if you really have to. Each game, you'll get 5 cards. You're going to play one of those cards every turn. You can dismiss your card if you want to try and get a better one. You can also dismiss your columns individually. You might need to do that if your column gets overloaded, but that's something we'll tap into later. I feel like that's a generally good explanation of how the basic rules of Caravan work, so I'm going to move on to the actual strategy that we're going to be using here, because you can actually use this strategy without knowing all the ins and outs of Caravan. So The method that most people use for farming Caravan is to run as many 9s, 10s, and 7s as you can. You can swap out the 10s for 8s and it would still work well, but I like having the extra 2 points. Generally, larger numbers are better for Caravan, but this combo in particular will allow you to reach your win condition in as little as 3 cards, which is very, very fast for Caravan. Like I said, you are going to want to include some 8s, maybe a couple lower numbers around 5 or 6, and as many face cards as you can handle. A healthy deck for this strat should be around 35 to 40 cards. I'll explain the reason for the 5s after I explain what face cards do. Kings are one of your most powerful tools in Caravan. Placing a king will double the value of whatever card you place it on. Note that it only doubles the value of the card, not of the entire column. Say you place your king on a 9 on a stack that contains a 9, a 4, and a 3, totaling 16. This would double the 9, turning the total score to 25. Kings are extremely useful because not only do they allow you to hit your blackjack very quickly, they can also double as offensive weapons opposed to using them for scoring. You see, in Caravan, you can actually place cards on your opponent's side of the field. This is where the PvP part of PvP Blackjack comes from. Since the objective in Caravan is to avoid getting your numbers too high, placing a king on your opponent's field and doubling their numbers can force them into a position where they have to erase their whole column. Having to erase your entire column in Caravan is pretty much the worst case scenario. I would compare Caravan to something like Pokemon singles, where single turns are very powerful and you absolutely do not want to be wasting them for any reason. And erasing a column means you're probably destroying 3 or 4 turns of work, which can be absolutely devastating. It could very easily cost you the game. Think of it like getting your shield broken in a fighting game. Also, the AI can fucking put kings on your side of the field too. They are smart enough to do that. I've been hit with double kings on a 9 enough times to know that Nobark Noonan is a fucker. You as the player can put a jack on one of your cards to remove it if the AI does something like this, where it triples your card value and then you're way over, so you don't have to erase your whole column. I don't believe the AI is smart enough to put a jack on their own cards. I could be wrong. A jack will do exactly that, by the way. Putting a jack down on a card will remove a card from the field, including any face cards applied to that card. This is really useful for the previously mentioned situation, and you can also use it to disrupt your opponent's stacks just by literally taking away some of their numbers. If you pull some jacks at the beginning of the game, you can actually blue ball your opponent from getting absolutely anything started by removing the cards as soon as they set them down. This is actually a strategy that Nobark will use to his advantage very frequently, and is actually the reason we grabbed a bunch of 5s. If you are exclusively running higher numbered cards in your decks, like 9s, 10s, 6s, 7s, if you're exclusively running those higher value cards, you could run into a situation where in the beginning of the game, you're placing down your high value cards to try and get your 3-turn combo, and Nobark Noonan just jacks all of your cards, and then you don't have enough high numbers to get a good score, and then Nobark Noonan fucking times you out, bro. I have had Nobark Noonan time me out in Caravan by having more cards than me. It was fucking insane. So, in order to counteract this, at the beginning of the game, you're going to want to throw down a lot of lower value cards, like 5s, basically just stuff to bait Nobark into using his jacks. If you can manage to keep your high valued cards past the first few rounds, then it'll be a lot easier against Nobark. The last 3 face cards aren't as good, but we're going to go over them anyways. Aces and jokers have some niche uses, but really aren't that powerful compared to something like a king or a jack. Aces are 1. Just 1, not 1 or 10 like they are in blackjack. It took me a good amount of time to figure that one out. The only unique property of aces ties into what the joker card does. Using a joker card on a numbered card will remove every card with that number from the field with the exception of the card that you played it on. For example, let's say you played a joker card on a number 7. It will remove all 7s from the board except the card you put it on. This includes your side of the field as well as the opponent's. You can use a joker card to just straight up subtract numbers from your opponent, or you could use it on your side of the board if you've gone too high in some of your numbers, so you don't have to dismiss any of your stacks. It's pretty useful. Tying back into aces, the only unique property aces have outside of the number 1 is that if you use a joker card on an ace, it will remove everything of that suit from the board. For example, if you use it on a spade, it will remove all the spades off the board, which is cool. It would almost be worth using it, but you have to use at least 2 turns to set this up, and it's 2 turns to set up something that will be useful sometimes versus bringing a king in your deck and then having something that's going to be useful all of the time in 1 turn. In general, you just want bigger numbers, and in general, taking a 1 is just not worth it because of the opportunity cost that you're going to be swapping out. And now that we've covered all the other face cards, we're going to cover why queens are borderline useless. Queens reverse the counting order of your cards. Wow. Say you place down a 6, then a 7. Placing down the 7 will lock you into counting up on that column, meaning you would only be able to place 8s or 9s, etc. However, placing a queen on that 7 would allow you to start counting down again, meaning you can start placing 6, 5, 4, blah, blah, blah. Pretty cool, right? Well, not actually. It kind of fucking sucks. Because compare 2 or 3 turns that it's going to take to use the queen to its full potential, and again compare it to immediate 1-turn power of something like a king or a jack. Even a joker is substantially better than a queen. I think one of the few positive things you can say about the queen is that it's better than the ace by virtue of being slightly more useful and not having to bring 2 cards to make it useful. You can only bring 1 queen or so, and it'll come in handy sometimes. I think I've maybe seen the AI throw down a queen on your side of the field to disrupt your counting order, but it's really not that effective of a strategy. You can also do this with no bark, but he's actually pretty versatile, and he'll work around it too. Alright, so that was actually a fuck ton of information, so we're going to go over some bullet points to make it easy for you all. Step 1. Grab Ringo's deck. Step 2. Home invasion no bark Noonan to play some Caravan. Step 3. Run a deck of mostly higher numbered cards, kings, and jacks. Avoid using excessively low numbers, and keep a deck size around 40 to 45 cards. Step 4. Watch out for the early rounds, where Nobark will spam jacks like a no-skill pussy using Riot Shield.
Good God, you fucking Riot Shield. What else am I gonna Oh, Riot Shield! I'm a pussy that use Riot Shield!
Step 5. Learn how to actually play Caravan. If you're going for Caravan Master, you only need to win 30 games, and you don't really need to know every single granular detail about Caravan. You just need to spam the 9-8-7 combo. Step 8, Mason! Freedom! We will escape for Guta! Oh shit, wrong video. That is pretty much it for the Caravan video. Once you play a few rounds of Caravan, you'll honestly start to get the hang of it. I do actually, unironically, enjoy the game after figuring out how to play it, so I hope you guys do too. But one more thing to mention, once you've played a few rounds of Caravan, Nobark will actually start betting less. Fortunately for us, though, Nobark does go to the bank at the same time all the merchants update their inventory, so just go wait in another building for like 3 days or so, and he'll start betting 800 caps again. I also want to mention, if you killed Vulpes by this point, then you can actually go farm Legion Assassins by Old Lady Gibson's shack, so, hey, even more free money. Alright, now we are done with the Caravan guide. That's pretty much all I had to say. Like I said, there are probably fucking faster ways to farm caps in New Vegas, but you already watched all this video about learning how to play Caravan, so I assume you either had some interest in it or you like watching my videos. So if you do like watching my videos, I do appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. That is pretty much going to be it today. Yeah. If you like the video, make sure to check me out on other platforms, blah, blah, blah. You guys know the drill by now. I appreciate all the support. I appreciate the channel blowing up lately. Gonna have some more Smoke Spot videos soon. I know those do really well, but I do like making other types of videos. So, thank you for watching this one. Have a good one, and see you next time.